In this video, I'm going to talk about the painting The 3rd of May, 1808, which was actually painted in 1815 by Francisco Goya. It depicts a firing squad of Napoleon's army killing unarmed men from the Spanish resistance during the occupation of Madrid in the Peninsular War. This painting is in the Prado Museum in Madrid. And in this video, just like all my videos, I'm going to talk about a secret technique which the old masters have used for centuries, which I call multi-referencing. It's when an artist takes small parts from several or all works of art by another artist and incorporates these parts into a single artwork. This technique is not in any books, this is only my opinion, but still I believe it to be true, so take a look and see if you agree. The 3rd of May, 1808 by Francisco Goya multi-referenced the artist Hieronymus Bosch. So I'm going to show you paintings by Hieronymus Bosch next to the 3rd of May painting, and I'm going to point out what areas are most obviously referenced. But keep in mind that I think that Goya multi-referenced all of Hieronymus Bosch's work. So take a look on good websites like wikimediacommons.com, and you can see other works by Hieronymus Bosch and look for references. So this first painting I want to compare is called The Conjurer, painted around 1496 to 1520 by Hieronymus Bosch. It's at the Saint-Germain-en-Laye Civic Museum in Saint-Germain-en-Laye, France. Here we see the conjurer on the right side wearing red. He has his right arm out with his right hand open, and Goya referenced this with the man in white holding two outstretched arms with open hands. The black hat of the conjurer is referenced by similar black hats worn by the firing squad. The square table of the conjurer is referenced by the cube-shaped lantern on the ground in front of the firing squad. The round window in the upper left corner of the conjurer painting is referenced by the bald round head of the monk wearing green and in the left side of the 3rd of May painting. The man looking up in the far left side of the conjurer wears a white shirt with a long sleeve like Goya's man with his hands up. Bosch's same man looking up at the far left wears a white robe on his legs, which make a light-colored vertical rectangle, and Goya referenced this shape and color with the left side of the lantern on the ground in front of the firing squad. This next painting by Hieronymus Bosch is called The Ship of Fools, painted around 1488 to 1510. It's at the Louvre Museum in Paris. The table in Ship of Fools sticks out of the boat at an angle to the left and down, and Goya has a similar angle on the ground between the shooters and the victims. The convex curve of the top of the boat in Bosch's painting is referenced by Goya with the convex curve of the ground between the French soldiers and the Spanish victims. The connections to this painting tells a greater story in 3rd of May, 1808. The references hint that the scene of shooting these people is also foolish. A man near the right edge of Ship of Fools holds onto a tree trunk, and he has his head looking down and to the right in profile, and Goya painted the monk in 3rd of May, 1808 with his head at a similar angle. A man in the background of Ship of Fools has his arm raised up and his hand open, like Goya's victim in the white shirt, as well as Goya's dead victim on the ground on the lower left with outstretched arms. This upraised arm and the bald monk are both strong clues that Goya's 3rd of May, 1808 referenced Hieronymus Bosch. Francisco Goya mirrored a posture of outstretched arms in both the live man standing and the dead man below him, and it's a strong indication that the man still alive is about to join his dead comrade. If you look closely, you'll see other subtle ways that 3rd of May reference the Ship of Fools. So many and obvious references, to me, indicate that Francisco Goya wanted to emphasize that there were similarities in the subject of Ship of Fools and the title, and 3rd of May, 1808. The many thin pieces of cloth hanging on the waist of the hooded jester-looking man in the upper right of the Ship of Fools is referenced by the group of thin rifles of the French soldiers in 3rd of May. Here is the Mass of St. Gregory on the exterior of the Adoration of the Magi triptych, painted around 1495 by Hieronymus Bosch. It's also at the Prado Museum in Madrid. The horizontal dark-colored line on the floor of the Bosch painting is repeated as the dark lines outlining the lantern in front of the firing squad painted by Goya. The structure in the background in the Bosch painting that looks like an oversized headstone with a curved top is referenced in 3rd of May 1808 with the curved top of the mountain behind the Spanish resistance. The acute angled curtain in the left side of the Mass of St. Gregory has the same angle as the left upper corner of Goya's lantern. This painting is the Epiphany from the exterior of the Adoration of the Magi triptych, painted around 1495 by Hieronymus Bosch, also at the Prado Museum in Madrid. The sticks and the fire in the Epiphany is referenced as blood on the ground near the victims of Goya's painting. The horizontal planks of wood on the makeshift roof in Bosch's painting is referenced by Goya's vertical plank shape on the left side of the lantern in front of the soldiers in 3rd of May 1808. The curved line of the lower roof support near the right edge of the Epiphany is referenced by the curves of the sword scabbards worn by Goya's French soldiers. This next painting by Hieronymus Bosch, which I want to look at, is Christ Crowned with Thorns, painted around 1479 to 1516. It's at the National Gallery in London. The man in the lower right corner of Bosch's painting has his arms straight and extended, like the extended arms of Goya's standing man in the white shirt, as well as the dead man on the ground below him. Bosch painted along the bottom edge of his painting an arm wearing a long gray sleeve and extending horizontally, and Goya painted a horizontal outstretched arm with a long gray sleeve in the soldier nearest to the viewer and holding a rifle at the Spanish resistance people. Christ Crowned with Thorns depicts Jesus wearing a white shawl that has a steep angle down and to the right on the viewer's right side, and Goya painted the man standing with his arms up with a white shirt with a similar steep angle on the right side. And this painting is St. Jerome in the Wilderness, painted around 1500 by Hieronymus Bosch. It's at the Museum of Fine Arts in Ghent, Belgium. And we see St. Jerome has a bald head with a line of hair around it, like the monk in Goya's painting. St. Jerome wears a white shirt like the man with his hands up in 3rd of May. St. Jerome has his head in left profile and angled down, and 3rd of May has a man in the background behind the rifles in a white cap with his head in left profile and angled down. The white tower in the distant upper left corner of the St. Jerome painting resembles an outstretched arm with a white long sleeve, like the man with his hands up in 3rd of May, 1808. Bosch painted a puddle of water in the lower part of the St. Jerome painting, and the back right edge of the puddle looks like the outstretched arm of the dead man on the ground in 3rd of May, in almost a similar location, the bottom of the painting. Hieronymus Bosch painted St. Jerome's hat lying on the ground in the lower right corner, and Goya referenced this with light on the ground also in the lower right-hand corner of his painting in a similar shape. The tree trunk on the right above the hat in Bosch's painting has a light color. It's hollow at the end like a shirt sleeve and has branches extending up, and Francisco Goya cleverly referenced the tree trunk with the outstretched arms and sleeves of the standing man in the white shirt with his arms up in 3rd of May, 1808. Again, here you can see more references if you look closely. Also, I believe that Francisco Goya referenced parts from all of Hieronymus Bosch's artworks. I'm just showing you a few examples. You can find more art by Hieronymus Bosch online, and an excellent source is the Wikimedia Commons website. My images here are from Wikimedia Commons and were created there by the York Project by Direct Media. This painting is The Wayfarer from the Pilgrimage of Life triptych. It's a close-up detail. It's painted around 1494 to 1516 by Hieronymus Bosch. It's at the Museum Boijmans van Beuningen in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. Sorry about the pronunciation. Hieronymus Bosch painted two people in the doorway, which resemble two people in the crowd by Goya, both placed right behind the bayonets of the French riflemen. 3rd of May has the person on the left as a man instead of a woman, and the person on the right is shown in left profile and wearing a similar white cap. The Y shape of the house wall above the doorway in the Wayfarer is repeated in the Y shape of the scabbard worn by Goya's French rifleman furthest to the left in the line of shooters. The white pair of pants hanging out the window of the second floor of the Wayfarer has a similar shape of the left pant leg as the view of the lantern behind the French rifle squad. This is Christ carrying the cross, painted by Hieronymus Bosch around 1500. It's at the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna. Christ is painted by Bosch in right profile, with his head tilted down, and with his crown of thorns he resembles the monk in 3rd of May in left profile with his head tilted down, and his hair circling his bald head like a crown of thorns. The cross makes a rectangle with the part in front of Christ, and Goya referenced this shape with the left leg in yellow pants of the man with his hands up. In Christ carrying the cross, the man in the lower left wearing a red hat has a similar face as the man with his hands up in 3rd of May 1808. The white turbans in Bosch's painting become white backpacks worn by the French rifle squad. And this final painting, which I want to look at 2 close-ups, is the Haywain triptych. This is a close-up detail of the middle panel, painted around 1515 to 1549 by Hieronymus Bosch. It's also at the Prado Museum in Madrid. There's a man on the ground in the Haywain with his arms extended out from his body in a similar angle as Goya's 2 people in the crowd of the Spanish resistance, with a similar posture, but one standing and the other lying face down. The sword under the outstretched arm in Haywain resembles the rifles pointed at the crowd in 3rd of May 1808. The Y-shaped spigot above the black cauldron in the lower left corner of the Haywain detail is like the Y-shaped scabbard worn by the French rifleman furthest to the left and closest to the viewer in 3rd of May. And finally, this is another close-up detail of the Haywain triptych, the middle panel, painted by Hieronymus Bosch between 1515 and 1549, and it's at the Prado Museum in Madrid as well. Here we see many people have their arms extended up and away from their bodies with their elbows straight, and Francisco Goya referenced them with his 2 men with similar arms. Bosch's man with 2 outstretched arms with red sleeves wears a yellow garment which has a split in the lower side, and Goya referenced a similar color and shape with the yellow pants of the Spanish resistance man standing with his hands up. The gray round hat worn by the man on the left side of the Haywain has a similar shape and color as the round gray bald head of the monk in the crowd of Spanish resistance fighters on the left side of the 3rd of May 1808. And of course, once you know that Francisco Goya knows about the secret method of multi-referencing, you can look at all other paintings by Goya and look for more multi-references. And you also know that Francisco Goya had an extensive collection of copies of paintings of Hieronymus Bosch, and he may have used this to multi-reference in other paintings that Goya did. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and please leave a comment. I would appreciate it. Thank you. I also have a newsletter where I talk about tools for understanding and creating master artworks. Thank you for watching.